My name is Will Harper, and I'm the director for Sensitive: The Untold Story, a story that featured rock star and highly sensitive person Alanis Morissette.
So you have the beautiful blend of the academic, intellectual, research, heart, soul, spirit. I mean, you have the integrated blend of all things that speak to me and from what's obvious, speak to a lot of people.
Today, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the international bestseller, The Highly Sensitive Person, written by the distinguished psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron. And we are honoring the Year of the Highly Sensitive Man, a year we'll never forget. I'm very proud to say that I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm a deep thinker. Sometimes I'm overstimulated easily, but I'm also empathetic from the heart, and I'm sensitive to subtleties. I consider this a gift. And now I would love to share with you some highlights from the first ever Highly Sensitive Men's Conference, a conference that was unprecedented, but little did I know I was in for a bumpy ride. On a stormy Monday, March 9th, 2020, I left my heart and home in the Philippines for California, 7,000 miles away, for the first ever Highly Sensitive Men's Conference. I say my heart because I was very newly married and had only been a week, but my wife understood. This was my highly sensitive tribe calling me. I knew COVID-19 already had a grip on Southeast Asia and was working its way around the world. But I had promised myself and the organizers that I'd be there. My film crew was also waiting. When that plane lifted off, my high sensitivity came with me. Bam! I was overwhelmed. I actually felt the virus getting closer. I sensed it more than others did. But that did not stop me from going for it. When I touched down in San Francisco, the sky was gray and the news was dark. COVID-19 had landed before me. I was tearing up hearing the tragic stories about those in harm's way. One of our primary facilitators, Dr. Tracy Cooper, would have had to fly to California and could not risk it. But Dr. Aron and the other primary organizer, John Hughes, were already there, along with half of the men. The other half, most of them traveling from further away, had canceled. Then I got word from my wife that the Filipino government was about to lock down the country, and it was no joke. I organized my camera crew, helped Dr. Aron and John Hughes get set up, and hopped on the next flight out to the Philippines. Even with all of the stress of the pandemic, the mood there had a suggestion of optimism. There was no question that Dr. Tracy and I were missing history in the making. But as the old adage goes, the show must go on.
I always wanted to do a conference or seminar weekend for highly sensitive men. That's because when I would do these for highly sensitive people in general, not very many men would show up, maybe 2%, 5%. Group of 100 and maybe 5 or 10 men would be there. We always had breakout sessions, and I always insisted all the men come together. And I would come and facilitate them, joking that I'd bring my inner masculine. I did that because I wanted to be sure that all the men talked. And the back of my mind was always to have a conference like this. And many people said, well, have women come too. You'll have more people in the room and women are interested in it. But I said, no, we'll just have men, except for me, and I will play a very small part in it. It was because I just had to see this first one. So we did it.
Sensitivity is one temperament trait, and by temperament we mean something that we think is inborn or there from birth. And it colors all of the personality, which personality is kind of a combination of life experiences and how you grew up and what's innate, what's in the DNA, what's in the genes of a person.
My sensitivity is something I want to be at home with and at peace with. I do not want to be ashamed of it, but I want to be comfortable with it, just being who I am.
I always wonder if there was a HSP for men only, and it's here now. I was kind of surprised by that. And I was like, sign me up, I'm ready for it. I was so excited for it.
It's a unique place to be, and you can make it a positive and not perceive it as a negative and hide out and be a hermit, which I did for a long time.
It's such a rare opportunity to have sensitive men gather with an intention to let's just hang out together and share similar traits, similar stories. And I immediately thought, oh, this is going to be an amazing weekend. So I'm looking for my tribe, and I feel like I found them.
My family needs you.
If you're sensitive, we see threats before somebody else does. We see opportunities before somebody else does, and that's just part of our depth of processing. And that's really comes into this whole entrepreneur thing, because we may not be the people who push ourselves into the front the hardest, but we have the ideas.
We process more deeply, which is a much nicer way of saying that I have to go through that dumb phase. Yes. So, but the way I describe it is kind of like, some people seem to process kind of fairly linearly. That seems to be the norm, I guess. And I kind of like it's kind of like a picture that's coming, and actually it even changes as it's becoming more and more in focus. Yes. And that's kind of the way I think, which seems to be very different than the way other people think.
So we wanted to have this wonderful gathering of highly sensitive men for the first time, face to face, with the idea that everybody would be seen and everybody would be heard. That this is a really important part for sensitive men to experience.
And so we've got to be honest with ourselves in terms of who we are and those layers that we're uncovering and who's down there, and then pursuing that, whatever that passion is or whatever that gift is that we have.
I have a fear of getting stuck in analysis paralysis, where I'm just like trying to figure it out and not actually doing anything. And the layers concept makes a lot of sense, especially since as I've shed layers, I've realized more and more about myself, but I still feel like there's so much there that's blocking me from moving forward.
So I always found myself being misunderstood as like cold or aloof or weak or too much, and that was a painful experience growing up.
It's not just going to be flip the switch, everything's different. So it's like I'm so much reevaluating things in my life, reevaluating my career, and taking it at, I guess, the HSP pace, where you're very careful and you're very measured.
So it was more of an experience than it was a simple workshop that you might attend. So men were able to talk with other men about their lived experiences, to discuss things that have been difficult for them, and to approach a sense of healing from a sense of community that developed amongst the men who attended.
I just want everybody to feel safe.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay?
I had dealt with an alcoholic wife and 3 daughters that under age 10, and fell into deep depression and was overweight and juggling too many jobs at that point to try to maintain the lifestyle that she wanted. We built a new home, and it was just stress on top of depression, and eventually.
The very first kickoff session, the men went deep right away, and I was just so impressed. I was in the middle of this. I shared some of my stories, and I heard lots of stories. There's so much brokenness in our past. The brokenness that we shared, obviously, we're tying to some degree to our highly sensitive trait, and that brokenness is just hard to get over. It's hard to accept. It's hard to figure out how to go forward when we carry all of that with us.
What was the hardest thing in your childhood about being highly sensitive?
Yeah. It was pretty hard growing up. A lot of mental abuse. Yeah, I mean, yes, physical abuse, but not too much. Yes, I got hit. I got hit when I was little, but it was a lot of mental abuse, a lot of yelling, a lot of profanity around it. I mean, it was pretty hard, pretty tough. It's pretty hard.
But here's the bigger side, or the more important side of that coin of past brokenness, is that just because we have a lot of brokenness in our past doesn't mean we're broken. Having this trait is not about being broken. There is nothing broken. So let go of that thought and keep researching and this trait. Hang out with other HS men and other HSPs, and keep studying, keep coming to the conferences, because you're going to meet people just like yourself, and they're going to want to hear your story, and you're going to want to hear their story. And that's, to be honest, that's really part of the healing process, is that ability to be vulnerable to one another.
It's kind of getting more clear as I'm hearing everyone else speak, and it's definitely my sacrifice would be to not care what people think. It's giving up that people pleasing or getting approval from others. That's the biggest sacrifice for me.
It's a whole new ballgame. And what do we need in society? People who think deeply, have strong emotional responses at the same time. So we said good heart, deep mind, sensitive to subtlety, so they notice what's going on. We need more of those people everywhere.
Well, this is me.
So that was how I was a part of this amazing conference through the filming. My eyes still tear up when I watch the men I did not meet and create this story. I know you will find it moving as well. Guys, you really need to be a part of this, because we need you. We need highly sensitive men to be leaders. It will be a benefit to us all.
And when it was all over, my goodness, we were all so happy with what happened, and we just feel this should be the new norm. We should have more of these conferences, definitely.
For the sake of safety, the next Highly Sensitive Men seminar will be presented on Zoom Saturday, December 5th from noon to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll see you there, and don't forget to keep your eyes open for the Highly Sensitive Man documentary.